Hello aspirants, welcome back to Arora IAS YouTube channel, the Ecology and Environment Lecture Series. Follow us on Telegram channel Arora IAS and visit the website for all the latest subjects and the course material support with www.auroraIAS.com and as well as the guidance programs. Before I tell you about the guidance program, let's quickly get into what I'll be discussing in this session. I thought I would discuss the terrestrial and aquatic biomes, but before the biomes itself, there is a very small topic that is left is the biogeochemical cycles. Yes, the gaseous hydrological cycle, which you must have studied in your 6th, 7th, 8th standard, that you might have been confusing like how to utilize that portion knowledge into the ecology and environment. That will be made easy through this session. So the session will begin. Before that, the PGP guidance program by Arora sir, who is an experienced mentor who will guide you step by step for all the Hindi and English medium students, whichever corner in the country you are present. Your online study will be made very easy. It is the myth that you have to travel here and there to get your preparation done, but sitting at your home itself, or if you're working aspirant as well, or you're beginner, or you're confused at any of the three stages, this program, this personal guidance program, will give you a hand holding approach by guiding you at every step, by giving you the customized timetable of individual timetable with lots of mains and prelims revision notes, as well as one-to-one clearing doubt sessions that will enhance your answer writing skills, as well as providing all the kinds of material support, where to study, how to study, how not to study, which material, and how to avoid things that you will distract you in the preparation, everything. That is why the PG guidance program is new and innovative in its own kind, with all the kinds of mind map study, the techniques of memorizing, brainstorming sessions, with individuals timetable study for all the aspirants to determine your caliber towards cracking this examination. So the further details of the program will be always be available through these below mentioned details. Do think about it and do utilize these services. So let's quickly begin with the today's session of biogeochemical cycle, where the nutrients are very important. I have already mentioned in the previous session also that an ecosystem has two functions. One is the energy flow and one is the nutrient cycle. So the nutrient cycle is how is happening is through the biogeochemical cycle, where the nutrients that are essential for the growth of the organisms and sustenance of the life is deriving the matter and energy from the ecosystem, like the atmosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere, lithosphere, and any other cycles are recycling the nutrients in their all these genres with biogeochemical cycle. So nutrient cycle is a part of this biogeochemical cycle, where the exchange of living and non-living nutrients will occur in the ecosystem always, because the biotic reserve, like the environment or the ecosystem, is a biotic reserve of lots of nutrients present, and this cycle will complete its genesis from one organism to the other organisms, ensuring that every organism in the food chain or food web getting the nutrients properly. So the cycle here will mention a nutrient cycle, a biogeochemical cycle. Why a biogeochemical cycle? Bio, the plants, the animals, everything is present, right? Geo, the geological features like the water, the land, or the atmosphere. Biogeochemical. Now what's the chemical? Chemical is nothing but the reactions that are occurring in the body. Like suppose the sunlight energy is being taken by the plants, they're preparing some glucose and storing it as energy inside their body. That is a chemical reaction. That is why it is known as bio, geo, and chemical cycle. So let's get into the types of the biogeochemical cycles. There are two different types of cycles. One is the gaseous, another is the sedimentary. What is a gaseous? Gaseous is nothing but carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, whichever all the gases that are occurring in the atmosphere. And the sedimentary cycles, sedimentary itself, you have already dealt with this sedimentary rocks in your geography preparation, where the sedimentary itself comes from the Earth's crust. So the cycles that are occur in the sediments form on the Earth's surface, like the phosphorus, sulfur, potassium, calcium, all these are called as the sedimentary cycles. So the two different cycles. We begin with the gaseous cycle. Then the gaseous cycle, the first one is a carbon cycle that I'm going to discuss. So the carbon that is present in the atmosphere in form of carbon dioxide, we'll cycle it through the continuous exchange of carbon with atmosphere and the organisms. How is it happening? First, the carbon dioxide is taken from the to the green plants. They prepare the food, and these green plants are eaten by some other animals. That is how the energy nutrient cycle of the carbon cycle continues. And then the organism that is consuming the plants will also respire, like it will give out the carbon dioxide again to the again to the environment or the ecology. That carbon dioxide again the plants will utilize, or the other organisms like phytoplankton that will utilize for preparing the food. So the carbon cycle is a cycle, short term cycle, because the carbon dioxide is the only very minute uh, compound that is being utilized to prepare food by basically the autotrophs. So the autotrophs are very few in the number. We are more having the consumers in the ecology. That is why this is a short term cycle. The rocks that are maybe because of the erosion, the carbon dioxide will come out from that also. The sun energy and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere because of the industrial activities or the vehicular emissions. All in all, these are the sources for the carbon emissions to occur, from where we get the carbon dioxide derivation. Fossil fuels also, when they are buried and decomposed, and when they are taken out from the earth's crust, the fossil fuels will also have some carbon dioxide in them. That way also we can utilize this carbon dioxide to recycle the nutrients. Then the cycle will be described in this diagram, where the carbon cycle is very well described in it, where the sun energy is giving out, the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is being taken by the tree. When the tree, the organic carbon through the leaf litter will be coming into the land. The leaf litter, when it comes, the sheep or any other organism that are feeding on these dead matters will eat it, will derive it, and they will release the carbon dioxide by respiration. Again, this carbon dioxide is getting back into the atmosphere. One more thing, this organic waste that is coming from the leaf litter can also be decomposed by the microorganisms, and then it can be again used for the plant nutrient. And plant, through this respiration also, it will release the oxygen in the environment, where the carbon present in the atmosphere, oxygen will mix and form carbon dioxide. This is another cycle. Another form, where the leaf litter matter can be used for these plants to recycle the nutrients, as well as the other emissions of carbon dioxide from the ships or industries, and any kinds of vehicular emissions that will also give out the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So all in all, the carbon dioxide is a very short term, because the organisms that require the carbon dioxide to prepare their food is very small, very minimal in number, but the carbon dioxide released is more in the environment. So the next cycle is hydrological. The name itself suggests that it is nothing but evaporation, condensation, diffusion of water. Water cycle, solar radiation and gravity is the main important thing, where the evaporation and precipitation are the main two important processes. Evaporation is nothing but the surface level water that is being escaped into the atmosphere, and then precipitation is when the escaped water becomes heavy in the atmosphere, falls down in form of precipitation. The plants that requires a lot of water, that is coming up from the precipitation form. And evaporation also occurs when it is a hot day, and when the atmosphere is wanting to take back the water cycle, because there is a balance due to homeostasis principle. This ecology environment will continuously recycle the hydrological cycle. The example through this diagram, you can see and evaporate. First, the precipitation. Let's see the precipitation. The precipitation is occurring here. The trees, plants, everything is getting water. They're intercepting some water. There is some of the water that is going in form of runoff also, that is getting into percolated into the groundwater. And there are some leaves and shrubs. There is some evapotranspiration occurring, that is again forming the clouds, and the clouds again form a precipitation. So this is the cycle of hydrological cycle. Next, let's come into the nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen has a very important peculiar property, that nitrogen which is available in the atmosphere cannot be directly used by any organism. Or suppose a plant also cannot use a nitrogen gas in the atmosphere for its food preparation. What it will do, there are three forms that how the nitrogen in the society or the ecology itself will be utilized. Like, first one is that microorganisms like the bacteria and brown green algae, they will fix this nitrogen. Second, by industrial process, because you prepare a fertilizer, NPK in proportion like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium will be available. Nitrogen from the atmosphere will be fixed in a fertilizer form. Third, from thunder and lightning also you can utilize the nitrogen in the atmosphere directly for this consumption into the ecology. So these are the three ways that we can use the nitrogen. So let's understand the example through this. The nitrogen in the atmosphere, what happens is there is a bacteria in the soil that will fix it up, and this will form the nitrates. Nitrates, when it will get assimilated into the environment, the plants consume it, the nitrates, they will, when their leaf and litter will fall, or when they're eaten by any kind of a mice or rabbit and all, the again these nitrates through form of nutrients that will be decomposed by some decomposers like the bacteria, algae, fungi. The fungi will act on these nitrogen that is being exfoliated into the plants. Through the process of ammonification, it forms an ammonium ions. When the ammonium ions can be formed from the decomposition as well as another format, where in the root nodules, where the roots of the plants will have some round nodules that are the leguminous plants, where the rhizobium bacteria in the root nodules will fix up the atmospheric nitrogen by fixing the nitrogen into the soil, and that also forms an ammonium. So there are two processes by which the ammonium ions are formed. One is by direct decomposition from the plant's nutrients, or from the direct nitrogen fixing bacteria that are present in the roots. Both of them combine to form some ammonium ions. When these ammonium ions are acted by some nitrifying bacteria through the process of nitrification, they form nitrates, which again will be converted by some of the other bacteria through form of nitrates. These nitrates is the only form that can be directly consumed by a plant for the nutrient cycle to occur. So this nitrates is form of utilizing the nitrogen. So the nitrogen cycle has been explained in other format, like nitrogen in the atmosphere. This will be converted into the ammonium ions, the ammonium ions into nitrates, nitrates to nitrates. This will be utilized with the plants. So this is a cycle. In a brief discussion, you need not get into depth about it, but just have a brief idea about how the ions are formed. You need not go into the chemistry part of it at all. Next comes, till now we have seen the nitrogen, carbon and hydrogen cycle that finishes the gaseous cycle. Now let's get into the sedimentary cycle. Sedimentary cycle is nothing but anything that occurs in the earth's crust. Which are the cycles that occurs in the earth's crust? That is phosphorus, sulfur, iron, calcium and many other elements. For the time being, we'll see the first one is the sulfur cycle. Sulfur cycle, if you see, there is sulfur dioxide that is being emitted by the factories or volcanic eruptions. This sulfur dioxide, when it will precipitate in form of hydrosulfuric acid, the sulfate ions will be utilized in form of the rain that falls onto the ground, where the animals consume that water or consume that plants that are deriving their nutrients from the sulfur. And then you can also fix it into the sedimentary cycle through in form of fertilizers also, because sulfur is an important ingredient that is devoid in the Indian soil. That is why we add some fertilizers into the soil. When the sulfate ions from the fertilizers gets leached by the small organisms in the soil, then it forms a mineral, organic sulfur is formed. The organic sulfur again, it will be present in the coal and the fossil fuels that are being embedded into the earth's crust. When we use this coal for generation of hydroelectric power plants or any kind of industries fuel, again the cycle is repeated. So this is sulfur cycle, where you see sulfur as a main organic element that is being circulated in a cycle. And how do we balance it? That is not of your concern, but I've given this because see what happens is, in the atmosphere, whichever sulfur dioxide is happening, that will combine with the oxygen present in the environment. It forms a SO3, and then when this water also comes and joins with the sulfur dioxide that has been released by the industries, what happens is the water will form as hydrosulfuric acid, which is nothing but the acid rain. That is why I have mentioned these equations for you. So the plant will absorb the sulfur when it is dissolved in water. Animals also consume these plants and take some enough sulfur into their body. Sulfur in soil and sediments are also present in form of the peat or the oil that is present as a fossil fuels. And sulfur can also be released when the rocks are weathered due to the running water or erosion that occurs on them. And then comes the phosphorus cycle. Sulfur cycle we have seen. Now so let's see the phosphorus cycle. There is rain, lots of phosphorus that is present in the pebbles. They will get weathered and the phosphorus comes into the aquatic system. It will go into the soil also. The animals will consume it, the decomposers will consume it. There is phosphate in the soil, then they'll reach the aquatic ecosystems, and there is sedimentation occurring in this process also. So this is phosphorus. How is phosphorus generated? We have seen from the weathering of the rocks, from geological uplifting. Geological uplifting is nothing but when the sea surface has going down and the land surface has been elevated up. So the ground resources which occur, which have the phosphorus, will come above. So that is geological uplifting, the weathering of the rocks. That is how this phosphorus is getting into the soil as well as into the solution forms in the aquatic ecosystem. So this phosphorus cycle is a nutrient cycle that has been transported, and there is a lot of chemical transformations that are occurring in the hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere. Within the rock sediments, ocean floor, we have this phosphorus that is playing a very important role. And the main cause of the phosphorus excessive growth of any kind of a microscopic plants in the lakes is because of the phosphate. It is injurious if it is exceeding to a limit, and the phosphates, when it comes from the industries as a runoff, that is very dangerous for the nearby lakes. Okay, so the next session, till now we have seen the phosphorus and sulfur cycles and the sedimentary cycles. So the next session would be dealing with the unit 3, which is discussing about the different terrestrial and aquatic biomes. And for the basic understanding only till now, this is a unit 2 part 2 portion, which is a brief discussion on the biogeous chemical cycles. And we have already dealt with the tone, ecological pyramids, ecological succession, and many other different concepts of ecology. So that completes the first basic portion. We'll begin the next session with the unit 3, that is about the ecosystems, terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. So before I start off, I want you to like, share, subscribe the series, and give your valuable feedback, as what will make your preparation easier for us is through your feedback, so that we can modify the preparation mode or modify the kind of lecture series that we are making for you. Do let us know through the comments below, and your valuable feedback at aroraIAS@gmail.com. As well as you can always go through the personal guidance program under the esteemed guidance of the experienced mentor like Arora sir, who will make you feel the difference in the preparation, because whichever corner of the country you belong to, you will have a preparation hand holding approach by the one-to-one doubt clearing session, lot of material support for the prelims and mains as well, daily timetable and individual timetable for the individual candidate, with ethics discussions, with lots of support materials, as well as answer writing techniques for you to be given in a guidance program, is one of its kind. Utilize the services to get to your final goal of your attaining these services list into the final UPSC examinations. So do check out the PGP program with the below mentioned details. So next session I'll be starting the terrestrial ecosystems. Until then, Jai Hind.